Welcome to today's Heriot University in conjunction with Postgrad Insights. Today we've got an E-Textile special, specifically technology in fashion at Heriot University. We're joined today by Lucy Robertson, who's the academic lead. We're also joined by Eric, who is a current student or a graduated student recently. Eric, nice to have you with us. If you'd like to drop back in the background, your part will be towards later on in the session. But a reminder that today's session is live. If you have any questions, any concerns, any issues at all, please put it in the Q&A or chat facility. We will endeavour to come round to your questions as soon as possible. And if you are watching on demand, which I appreciate many of you will be, please point your questions at webinars@postgradsolutions.com or study with us at hw.ac.uk. But for now, I'd like to hand you over to Lucy. Lucy will be taking you through the next 30 to 45 minutes, and I'll be back towards the Q&A. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, Gareth. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. My name is Lucy Robertson, and I'm as Assistant Professor of Design here at Heriot University. I also am a researcher, and my research looks at interactive textiles for well-being. And that's some of the things that we're going to have a little look at today, kind of interactive materials, interactive textiles, e-textiles, with a bit of a fashion emphasis, but looking at design as a whole. And it's really just going to touch the surface of all of that because there's quite a lot out there in that realm. But I want to talk a little bit about the limitations and things that come with it too. And really today is about inviting you to consider what you might like to do within this area, and hopefully what you might like to do with us, coming to study with us. So yeah, so that's what we're going to talk about. I'm also the global postgraduate kind of person that heads up all the postgrad courses here at the School of Textiles and Design specifically, so the design postgrads that we have. So I'm going to talk a little bit about them towards the end and what we deliver and what programs that you might be interested in and get involved with. I think that's it. I graduated from my PhD in 2021, and my PhD was Interactive Textiles for Wellbeing, looking specifically at dementia-friendly communities. So a little bit away from fashion, more on the textiles and community side of things, and that's something that I'm going to touch on as well as we go through today's slides. But really, we're looking at interactive textiles, e-textiles as a whole across lots of different designers. And I just want a little bit of an introduction really to what I know about, what I like talking about, but there's lots more of it out there. So first, what smart or interactive materials are, I want to kind of give you a little introduction. And I'll be showing you these kind of materials in more depth as we go through. But smart materials or interactive materials, depending on how you might have heard about them, generally are materials that react without energy to a stimuli such as heat, light, pollution, water, or some of the things we're going to look at as well are e-textiles, so things that have energy through them, through batteries or any other power source, to either be a button on textiles or fashion that you can kind of trigger a reaction, or some of them have monitors hooked up to the body so they respond to the body's reactions. And that's what we're really kind of looking at today. Initially, I want to talk you through the different stimuli, such as we're going to start with heat. Just looking at my slides ahead. We're going to start with heat, and then we're going to go on to light, and then more kind of abstract concepts as we go through. So hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully it'll become clear if it doesn't. I've got a little video here, and I'm hoping it will play. So this is thermochromics in action. So they change color when they're hot. These ones particularly, you do get ones that change color when they're cold. So you can kind of see that they're going from, that one in particular was an orange, to a kind of neon yellow, a blue to lighter blue, a red to lighter red. And that's just a little sample that I've made for showing this to students when we're teaching. So thermochromics, you can print with them just through a straight screen, or you can paint with them, or in other circumstances, you can coat things in them as well. So I have previously coated a fiberglass penguin. That's another story in thermochromics. And that, you can use them on lots of different materials. What I have found though is that fabric is the best because it kind of conducts heat and you can put heat on both sides of it when you're touching it. So it does make it a really nice tactile solution for things like fashion and textiles to use. Another version, and it's a different thing, but it's kind of similar, is liquid crystal. It's a lot more expensive. And it gives you more of the kind of mood ring effects that you might have played with as a kid when you had a little mood ring, or kind of like an oil spill, and it changes different colors depending on the temperature. So it almost goes through a spectrum. And this is some of Dr. Sarah Robertson's work on that. Lauren Boker has coated things in liquid crystals, but her work really was more about highlighting things like carbon monoxide and pollutants. But really, that what's happening here is heat is interacting with the materials and changing the colors. Another example from Lauren Boker here. This is her Unseen Air collection, and it's handmade leather garments. And they're responding, and it's called unseen because they're responding to these unseen changes in the environment. So that's liquid crystals. A little example of thermochromics on the high street. This was 2017, so it's a wee bit older now, but it's a picture I took in London. And this is Stone Island, and this is their ice knit. So this one is responding more to the kind of cold effect. So it would be this color in a normal temperature, this kind of mustardy yellow. But as you're exposed to kind of colder temperatures outside, you get these different effects. If you are aware of thermochromics, you might know of t-shirts made in the 80s that again were the whole t-shirt was covered in thermochromics. And when I was working with them within my undergraduate, I got a lot of comments saying, oh, make sure you think about the placement of the thermochromics, think about where you're putting them. Because obviously sometimes, especially if it's the one that's responding to heat, you don't want to highlight certain areas are hot. So again, it's all about placement. It's about playing with the material and having a bit of fun. So if you were to come and study with us, or if you want to have a wee play, have a little look at thermochromics and um, sort of experiment with them and think about how you might use them in a way to create interaction with a garment. In my undergrad, I don't think I actually put a picture of it in here, but I used them on the trims of shirts. And the idea was that I was recording people's touch, so where you might touch someone. So I put them kind of in the shoulder pieces, maybe on the pocket, in the cuffs. So again, thinking about placement, thinking about not embarrassing places to put thermochromics, but places of interest, places that people might interact with others in a kind of loving way. So that was heat. That's a heat, an interactive material that reacts to heat. This one is photochromic and it reacts to light. So again, little video, and this is a UV torch. But if you were to take it out into the bright sunshine, and we are in bonny Scotland today, and it is nice and sunny outside, if you were to take it outside, you would get the same reaction. Complete color kind of, well, here it's making it darker, but it can be a color change. It could be a little bit like, I don't know if you've ever had secret ink. So where you write in a diary and then you use your UV light to kind of show up what you're writing, but no one else can see it. It's a little bit like that. Again, you can screen print with it, you can paint with it, you can play with it in lots of different ways. And I found a really lovely example of it within fashion quite recently. Um, so this was using photochromics, and this was at the Paris Fashion Show in 2023. And here they've obviously coated different textiles in this photochromics. And then on the catwalk, they've used a UV light to scan down the body and show up the different patterns, which are highlighted by the light. So that's quite a fun way of of using the photochromics. So again, if these outfits were to be in the dark of, a club or whatever, and you came out into the daylight, then you would be much brighter outside than you would be inside. So also along the lines of light, and these are taking us a little bit away from that reaction stimuli, but more towards e-textiles, are different ways of using LEDs. This is electronically active yarns, and this was a project at Nottingham, Trent University, and they're looking at how you kind of create a yarn of LEDs to weave through things, or as you can see, they've kind of thought about laces and different uses for it there. But really, it was to sort of more integrate LEDs into a malleable, a textile kind of surface. At the moment, you get obviously your simple LEDs. I don't know if people have ever seen them, but they're just like little hats almost. They're quite solid. They're quite plasticky. You get sewable LEDs, which are a bit flatter. Um, and obviously, you also get things like fairy lights that are on like a really thin copper wire. And that's what these kind of look like to me. But they've developed them a little bit further and made them into a textile kind of yarn. Another similar example in that this is flexible LEDs and the screen display is University of Cambridge, which created this 46-inch woven display, and it has smart sensors as well so that it changes depending on different stimuli. So that's the kind of crossover between um, the photochromics and thinking about LEDs and how you might interact with something. And you can start to imagine that maybe on the body. This is by Etta Shop, and they have so many different variations. Not necessarily the most wearable item, definitely more of a maybe a festival or um, special occasion, but quite a solid LED screen that they've used in different garments. And again, if you went and had a look at their shop, you'd see so many different options. Very expensive to buy. And that was the thing to say about Stone Ice as well with their thermochromic jumper. Back in 2017, that was something like £1,000 to buy, so £1,000. So it's not the most accessible wearable things. And also with e-textiles and interactive materials, a limitation that is kind of worth highlighting is that, things need to be washed, things need to be wearable, there needs to be longevity. And although these things have actually existed, like the t-shirts were back in the 80s, they've existed for a while, they're still not mainstream, partly because of expense, partly because people are still developing them as wearable, actually integrating them into outfits and more kind of daily life is quite tricky. So there's still lots of opportunity to play with all these things and kind of make your mark by experimenting with them. Another thing along the light kind of theme, and this is Sarah Robertson and Sarah Taylor. Sarah Robertson, we looked at her liquid crystal work just a little bit earlier. This is woven fiber optics, and then they have etched into it to create this beautiful pattern. Again, I played with this in my undergrad, and I'm going to show you the project in a second. But thinking about limitations, thinking about opportunities, it needs to be quite a dark room to really see the light from woven fiber optics. So it's still something that would need further development, further thought. And I found that out the hard way in my undergraduate project. So this is Color Connection, and it uses Arduino and woven fiber optics to create basically a dress and a cushion that can change each other's color. So they had little controllers on each of them. So if I was wearing the dress, I'd be able to control the color of the cushion and vice versa. And the idea with this one is that the cushion would be somewhere else in the world. I would have the dress wherever I was, and we would create a connection with whoever had the cushion through colour, through textiles, and through interaction. This worked over radio frequency, but this was back in 2013 that I did this, and you could definitely update and reduce the size of the electronics in this now. Again, for washability, you'd need to take electronics off the garments. You'd be able to wash the textiles themselves, but the actual electronics would need taken out and kept safe while things were being washed. I'll be able to answer any questions at the end as well. So, take notes if there's anything that I'm going over too quickly or that you're interested in and would like to know more. Take a little note and we can talk about it later. Okay, so we've talked about light, we've talked about heat, and this is water, so hydrochromic. So we've had photochromic for light, thermochromic for heat, and this is hydrochromics, and they respond to water. Really, what they are, or in this circumstance, is almost like a mask, a white mask over colour. And when the water hits it, the mask becomes transparent and the colour is revealed. So this is Squid London, and obviously a lovely raincoat and umbrella. And when you go out in the rain, you get a little bit more joy, and you get lots of colour. They've got lots of children's wear, as you can imagine, examples, which are quite fun. I've got one of the umbrellas. Um, and I suppose thinking again about limitations and opportunities, the limitations, it's a bit of a quick win, it's a bit of a quick fun thing. But what do you do? I mean, I don't know where that umbrella is now, unfortunately. Um, is it something you keep in your wardrobe? Is it something, we're thinking more and more, rightfully so, about sustainability, about longevity. Um, I want you to kind of consider that as we talk through these things as well, because not all of them are particularly sustainable. A lot of them use chemicals, and it's something that, in terms of opportunity, that's kind of, for me, in my head, the next step is thinking about the sustainability, thinking about how we use them differently, knowing what we know now. And that kind of leads us on to biomaterials. So there's been quite a trend in creating biomaterials from different things, like, so this one's sunflower seeds, um, natural dyes. So we've got hibiscus flowers. A lot of them do use gelatin in the basic biomaterials. So it's kind of going beyond that. What else can we use? What else can we play with? And this is something that I'd love a few master students to explore a bit further. I'd love to do it too. If I had a bit more time, it would be something I'd be looking at as well. Um, but yeah, there's lots of opportunity there. So it's kind of moving on from those chemical interactive materials that we were talking about with photochromic, thermochromic, and hydrochromic. How do we move into that more bio realm, creating compostable materials, using natural resources, and kind of playing with that idea of edible, wearable, dissolvable fashion. So it almost comes on from the paper dress that was the 60s. They thought about that as like a fast fashion, a quick win. Um, maybe we could be making biomaterial dresses. An example of this, so this was using mycelium, mushrooms, kind of bacteria to create this dress. Obviously, it's potentially not very wearable, definitely not very washable, but really interesting kind of ideas and concepts of what we might be able to play with and take forward. Another example of mycelium is this chair by Eric Cloudbeak, and it's a 3D printed chair, but then they've grown fungi within it to strengthen the structure. And again, thinking about these kind of alternative materials, natural materials, bio, could be quite interesting. This is a bit of a combo between e-textiles and biomaterials, and the next slide is as well. This is kombucha, and then they've also put LEDs within their kombucha structures that they've been kind of creating and growing. So it's a biomaterial. This was a wee while ago, so 2017, I think. Um, so yeah, things like this have been happening for a while, and this is just scratching the surface of it. There's lots out there. So it'd be up to you to kind of go away and have a wee look at your own research into this, especially if you wanted to form a project around it for a master's. This was at the Design Festival in London, again 2017. And this is really interesting. So it's a chandelier with 70 transparent petals, and it contains green algae, which was harvested in the designer's workshop at Imperial College. And the microorganisms are activated by a mix of daylight and the LEDs that are within them. And they're sustained by nutrients, so there's kind of feed coming in. Um, and it's also an air purifier, so it's purifying the air while it works. This was in the V&A London as part of the design festival back in 2017. And it's just lots of different examples of materials that are interactive or interesting, some of them in containing e-textiles as well. Along the same sort of lines, this is a air purifying dress, catalytic clothing by Helen Story and Tony Ryan. And this looks at photocatalysts, so it breaks down airborne pollutants. And as it does that, it changes, so the sort of blue of the pattern becomes more vibrant up the dress. So it also shows a little bit like Lauren Boker's Unseen collection. It shows what it's doing while it's doing it, to kind of highlight the need for air purifying to show how much pollutants there are out there as we walk about. Okay, I'm gonna take a little moment, have a little water. Um, this is on to the next bit. So we've kind of looked at interactive materials, we've looked at things that change with stimuli, and this is on to kind of conductive materials and more e-textiles. So conductive materials you get in lots of different forms. When it comes to adding them to textiles or fashion, what do we need them to do? We need them to be flexible, we need them to work with our designs, our patterns. And this is bare conductive ink, screen printed onto a bit of fabric. And then this particular piece is connected to MIDI EJ tech, but it could also be connected to a bare conductive board, for example. And as you touch the different elements of the textile, you can either get different pitches or play it like an instrument. Or if you wanted to, you could program it with different sounds. It could turn on different lights. It's effectively a big kind of button, a big interactive surface using this conductive material. I played a little bit with conductive materials in my postgraduate, in my PhD, and I was really interested in how we could even think about 3D printing them onto materials or integrating them in a different way. So this was 3D printing it onto a bit of Harris tweed. There's a lot of Harris tweed in my PhD because I worked a lot in the Outer Hebrides in Scotland. And this is conductive filament for a 3D printer. Oh, and then we're on to the next one. I also looked at conductive ink, so as I've just highlighted, but I used a lot with these bare conductive boards that you can see on the screen now. And these are really, really simple to use, really, really useful. They've got these nodes at the top, and you can connect things to the nodes, and you can program them with lights, sound. You can have a little SD card that goes in, has MP3s on it. So it's quite playful, and it's quite a good little tool if you want to integrate things like sound into projects. So working with that conductive ink and a bare conductive board, you could also be linking it up to Arduinos, you could be linking it up to Raspberry Pi. If you are a bit more savvy with coding, there's lots of things you could be playing with here. Again, taking us back to those kind of opportunities and limitations, I'm always thinking now about sustainability, about the next step of the things that we're making, their kind of end of life or their life beyond their use that we're creating them for. And this is some really interesting research quite recently into biodegradable conductive materials, so creating them in a way that they can then biodegrade. And they've designed a three-layer, so it's got a sensing layer, a layer to interface with the sensors themselves, and then a base fabric. And they've used Tencel for the base, which is from renewable wood and is biodegradable. Um, and then they've actually had a little experiment and they've buried the textiles in soil to measure its biodegradable properties. And this is after 4 months. The fabric had lost 48% of its weight and 98% of its strength. So there is some research going on in this area. There are some leaps into creating more sustainable e-textiles, and it's something that could be pushed a lot further. So the kind of opportunity in this area at the moment I can see is around sustainability and really understanding that. Some example of e-textile projects. This is quite an old one now, but this is Rainbow Winters, and it's a dress that responds to different volumes of sound and kind of creates these thunderstorm patterns on the dress. Along the sound theme, this is Kathleen McDermott's one, and it's the decibel jacket. So in the tube here in the underground, measuring just how loud the train is going by, and the jacket then highlights that. So the last two really are about highlighting, sound or understanding external stimuli and then highlighting it through an e-textile. But they're also used for things like sensing. Um, so this is a sensor glove and it senses where the fingers' movements are and pressure is applied. So it allows people to control. So it's almost like a remote control, but through a glove. So you can connect sensors, you can connect different monitors, you connect to all sorts of different things with e-textiles. And you can kind of see here that they have played around with conductive materials in that they've either knitted or stitched them, I think knitted in this circumstance, into the bits on the glove. So they've thought about the different sensing capabilities of the material. And you do get conductive thread, you get conductive yarn. So again, it's something to play with the kind of flexibility of conductivity as well. Thinking about wearable, this is Cindy Kao, and actually it's got some more recent projects that you should maybe have a look at. This is when she was at MIT. Thinking about wearable tattoos was this project. So conductive tattoos connecting the LEDs. And actually our skin's conductive, so we can use it to trigger different things. Cat's paws can trigger different things. So that might have been quite tricky. There probably would have been quite a lot of isolation needed to not use the skin to trigger or create a bigger circuit. Something that I've looked at as well, although this is Hazel White's project, is RFID tags. If any of you have got kids and you've maybe got a Yoto player, they use RFID tags in the little cards they use to play, or even just like a pass for work. Sometimes they're RFID. What Hazel's done here is put these little tags in these different knitted cushions, and there's some a circuit, a little board in the box itself. When you scan the cushion over it, it brings up a particular photo of that family member that the cushion represents. I did this with birds, and it relates to the next slide, but when you scanned the bird, you got the specific bird sound because it was paired with the RFID tag. So I'm just highlighting different ways of kind of playing with textiles and ideas. You could put that in a pocket, you could put that in different accessories or kind of play with it within fashion. This is a different variation of what I've just talked about with my bird scanning the RFID tags. This is Sonic Flock, and it was part of my PhD. I crowdsourced knitted and sewn birds from across the Outer Hebrides. I asked people to make them. I brought them all back in and I put them into different ways of, I used different electronics to help them tweet. Um, and for example, this one is using the bare conductive board that we looked at a couple of slides ago, conductive thread, and then I use these embroidery hoops to frame the bird, and the embroidery hoops are coated in conductive copper tape. So when someone interacts or touches the hoops through the headphones, they hear the tweet of that bird. Um, there was also a big wall of hundreds of birds just hanging down, and some of them used little sound chips just within the bird itself to try to make it a little bit smaller. So when you put their wings together, they did the bird sound that was appropriate for that particular bird. After that exhibition and after creating these things, we visited care homes throughout the Outer Hebrides and we gifted the birds to the residents of the care homes and asked them, questions about them and why they chose their particular birds. A lot of them were made from Harris tweed, and a lot of the residents had worked in tweed mills and things, so there was quite a lot of kind of memory and smell and the tactility that comes with textiles with the additional fun of something that made noise. And that was all about kind of creating conversations, getting to know those residents, building trust within that community for further research to happen. Again, hopefully this is all making sense. If it isn't, or if you have any questions, there'll be a little bit of time at the end to do that. Along the same lines of sound, this is Cute Circuit's sound shirt. And the idea is that you can experience sound in a different way. So if you're hard of hearing, this sound shirt creates haptic experiences depending on the sound that is being input. So for example, if you're in front of an orchestra, maybe the cymbals are over on this arm, maybe the drums are up here, and you kind of feel the overall beat as well through this immersive kind of hug almost. They also have a hug shirt, which is about um, being able to be hugged from a distance. So yeah, it's this kind of haptic experience of wearing the shirt. And these are still on sale. And Cute Circuit have a variety of e-textile fashion outputs, so worth a look if you're interested in this area. I talked a little bit earlier about sensors and sensing things on the body and that changing outputs or stimuli. And this is an example by Studio Rosengar. This is intimacy. Um, and the smart layer sort of under her hand changes to transparency depending on her heartbeat. So the faster the heartbeat, the more transparent the garment and the e-foils become, which I will let you decide whether that's appropriate. But it's a really interesting kind of experience. And again, another immersive maybe garment, whether it's wearable, the reality of it, possibly not. But these are all really exciting experiments and ideas that could be made wearable or could be taken that little bit further, either within a sustainability viewpoint or just actually making it something that someone could wear. Another example, a bit more modern, a bit more recent, is this emotional clothing, which is the ones with the LEDs. And again, it's using e-textiles to enhance the experience of wearing clothing and taking part. So the idea is that you can interact with your clothes, but it's also got sensors attached to you and kind of, again, interacting with different vital signs like heartbeat and pulse and things like that. On the other side is reshaped body, and this is a speculative design project. And it's looking at how we might survive orbit in 2030. So what our bodies might require, kind of along the cyborg lines. Um, but it's very speculative. And this is something that we look at in our second semester of our MA in Fashion and Textiles. We ask you to think about speculative design. We ask you to consider how things might look in the future. So this is quite an interesting one, reshaped body. I think I might need to speed up a little bit. I don't think it would take as long as it is. Um, Another example of e-textiles and kind of moving us a little bit towards avatars or virtual fashion, virtual reality. So All Mirrors is made of soft mirrors, and the idea is that again it responds to um, different stimuli and changes the way that the mirrors move and reflect and can reflect back at you. In camera is one, these two, oh no, sorry, the middle one. And it is a response to kind of taking pictures. So the garment moves um as pictures are taken. The faces of strangers are partially hidden behind these kind of different textiles and different fabrics. And then this last one on the other side is called 2526. And it's a robotic garment that simulates the effects of virtual clothing. So it's kind of got this movable flow to it. So again, have a look at this work if you're interested. There's also ways of tech enabling activities and sports. So these are yoga leggings, and the idea is that they give you haptic feedback based on your poses and your practice. So yeah, so effectively almost like a trainer in your leggings. A bit more speculative, this one. Um, Adding fans into a jacket to kind of keep you cool. Again, whether how practical that is, I'm not sure. But a really interesting kind of exploration. And they did do it for the uniforms for this project. Where am I at? Yeah, okay. So just wanted to highlight as well that, and it kind of comes on from 2020, Yin Gao's work, assistive robots or tech on garments is something that's kind of coming up as well. These, again, are from a few years ago, but they're MIT. And the idea is these little robots help you kind of zip up your jacket or um, pull down your sleeve or whatever you need assistance with. Obviously, they're not quite, they don't look cute yet. But it's really interesting, this idea of fashion, and maybe it's about assisting the wearer to wear the piece. Another MIT project, and this is soft robotics. So soft robotics is kind of generally using a textile and then air or similar to uh, fill the textile and move things about. And this one is kind of helping somebody grip. So maybe you need a bit of help with your hand to move it, to grip things. And this glove would do that. And I suppose the last thing within this kind of era of e-textiles, of interactive textiles, of different things happening within fashion, I wanted to highlight the kind of virtual fashion world as well. And this is Institute of Digital Fashion with H&M has kind of created these avatars and these outfits. And um, I don't know if anyone here has played with virtual fashion or is interested in, virtual outfits, plays any games where you can, be a completely different avatar version of yourself online. But it's definitely something to keep an eye on and something that we would be interested in people exploring as part of their MAs and their PhDs. Okay, sorry, I rushed through a little bit at the end there because I started worrying that I'd spent too much time. A little bit about our portfolio, so what we actually offer. And as I said, anything I've just talked about around e-textiles, interactive materials, all that stuff. If you have any questions, It's not an exhaustive list that I've just been through. There is more out there. There is more in the world. Um, and I'm not the be all and end all expert of these things. It's something I'm interested in, and it's something our students have looked at, and I've looked at a little bit within my research. But there's more there, and there's lots of opportunities. There are some limitations. Um, but I'd be really interested in hearing more from you guys about maybe what you've done or what you're interested in doing. Um, and yeah, I wanted to highlight our courses. So these are the different postgraduate courses we have here at the School of Textile Design in Galashiels in Scotland. We have the MSc in Design Management. That's also that's here, but it's also in our on our Dubai campus. So we have a campus, School of Textile Design in Dubai. We've got Digital Design and Innovation. We've got MA Fashion and Textile Design. So that's the one that I teach on and head up. We've also got that one, but with an industry placement that would happen over the summer. So we pair you with an industry contact. You apply for different internships. We introduce you to them, but you apply for them as well. And then we help you kind of get that internship for across the summer, and you do it. It's a course that you study, but you're out there in industry, getting that really valuable experience. We have industry contacts locally, but we also have them nationally and internationally, or you can come with somebody that you'd really like to work with, and we can try and help you get an internship with them. We have an MSc in Fashion and Textile Management, and we have an MA in Interior and Architecture Design. And again, that one is both here and in Dubai. So we'd love you to come and study with us. We'd love to hear from you. So for more information on the programs I've just highlighted, um, you can have a look at our website. You can give us an email. This is the admissions email, or that's my email as well. And the other thing to do is follow us on Instagram, um, sotd.hw, or I am Lucy Robertson Designs on Instagram. And this QR code takes you to a digital experience of the student experience here. So you get to see the building a little bit and things like that. I'm currently sitting within this building on that screen, the High Mill, and that is where we're based. It is currently being renovated, so there's lots of amazing work happening, and it's going to be super beautiful for everyone coming to start with us in the future.
So I studied my master's at Heriot in sustainability and ethics in fashion, and then went away and came back and did a PhD related to some of the work that I did within that. Still looking at the sort of sustainability and textile testing. So not necessarily within the electronics sort of side of it. But yeah, it was some really interesting courses, and I've just sort of recently submitted my PhD and I'm now working as a research associate. So yeah, that's with an AHRC funded project called Design Hopes, which is like a collaboration between a lot of the Scottish universities and industry as well. So it's been a really great opportunity to get into this kind of role of research through Heriot Watt.
And was this something that you envisaged yourself doing, or was this quite a spontaneous thing that you saw it and thought it seems too good to be true almost?
A bit of the second one, I think. I hadn't really considered research. I was thinking more of the sort of industry side of the work. And I worked for a while as a repair, like clothing repair person, very focused on like outdoor clothing and the practicalities of it and making things that would be useful for people. And yeah, these roles came up and opportunities. And yeah, it was just a good opportunity to do something different and do something that could have a positive impact on the textile industry.
Excellent. And do you find that doing a research course, does it fit in around your plans? Did you find that as flexible as you hoped it to be? Or actually, is it at front and center of everything you do?
Um, So the research role is my current job. So that's the sort of
Yeah,
only, at the moment, the only role that I do. Yeah, it's been really flexible and yeah, allowed me to sort of finish my PhD while I've been doing this role, which has been, yeah, really useful.
that's the key. Eric, if I can just come back to you, have you got any slides ready, or did you just want to have a quick chat about your experiences?
Yeah, I can share it just now.
Yeah, brilliant. So, um, fabulous. So we should be able to see then. If you just will pop that on slideshow full screen. Um, I will then pop off. I'll let you continue with your presentation. I'll be back for the Q&A in just a moment.
Cool. Thank you. Yeah. So I've already said that I've just completed my BA in fashion. Um, I describe myself as a designer who is detail driven and grounded in traditional techniques, but I'm also looking for subtle ways to bring innovation into my work. And so today I'll talk to you briefly about this most recent collection that I finished at Heriot Watt. Um, it explores how we can embed memories into garments, specifically through the use of NFC technology, similar to the RFID technology that Lucy spoke a little bit about. The collection itself was inspired by the way music can trigger memories, how one song can take you back to a time or a place or even a feeling. On screen now, you'll just see some images of my collection, but yeah, that connection between sound and music became the foundation for the work. And to capture that, I embedded those NFC tags directly into each look and used something called cymatics, which is the study of sound and vibrations, to make the prints, as you can see on screen now. And so, yeah, NFC stands for near field communication. It's similar tech to the chips in your debit cards. And like I said, RFID. These tags are small, discrete, and easy to program. You can do it just with an app on your phone. Each NFC tag, in my case, links to a specific song. And so when scanned using that smartphone, the wearer or the viewer is taken directly to that Spotify track in my case. And in doing so, the garments I created become interactive. They're part clothing, part playlist, part photo album. And so the tags are placed behind these sewn on fabric collages, as you can see here. These collages reference personal memories of mine, and the tags create that extra layer of meaning. It's not obvious at first glance, but once you have it in your hands and you engage with it, the garment reveals a bit more. I can show you if these work. Oh, don't think they'll work. I had videos, but anyway, the thing is you just put your phone next to it and it'll scan and bring up that Spotify link. But yeah, technically speaking, the goal was to make these elements as seamless as possible. So nothing bulky, nothing that interrupts wearability. The NFCs themselves are integrated directly, or sorry, they're integrated during the construction of the garments. So they're placed in zones where they remain flat and accessible, like here inside of the lining, here the underside of your wrist, here's the back of a hoodie, and this one on the trousers is on a patch that can be removed, so you can hide it, you can show it, whatever you want to do. It was important to me that the tech enhanced the garment without overshadowing the whole look itself. So yeah, that's why they're kind of, sometimes they're hidden, sometimes they're not. But yeah, and the tags themselves are fully washable, built to withstand regular garment care. So, but yeah, this kind of small scale embedded tech has potential beyond just music. I mean, it could link to care instructions, production transparency from the brand, something even as simple as like a message from the brand. And yeah, this work was recently on display at my degree show at Heriot Watt, where I presented both the garments, the imagery, but it was also on models, which was nice to finally see the work come together and have people see it. I also showcased my collection at Graduate Fashion Week in London, where I was shortlisted for the Zandra Rhodes Textile Award and chosen as one of the top 20 menswear collectors in the UK. that was a great opportunity to have industry professionals see my name and work, but also to showcase the potential of discrete wearable tech in fashion. Looking ahead, I think technology will start to play a more powerful role in fashion, but like not just for the spectacle, but for enhancing meaning and traceability and user experience in ways that feel more personal and lasting. But yeah, that's really all I have. Thanks for having me again. Happy to answer any questions.
Lucy, we'll just quickly go through a few questions for 5 minutes before we wrap up.
Yep.
Because there have been a few questions coming. If you feel the need anyone to answer, feel free to do so, okay? I'll aim it towards Lucy, but if you think that's probably better coming from yourself, then let's do so. To begin with, what qualities or experiences are you looking for, Lucy, on a portfolio? Because I can imagine you probably see dozens upon dozens of portfolios every single month. What kind of creative element are you looking for? What sets apart one person from another?
I think when it comes to a master's degree portfolio, we're really looking for you to come with a plan, a bit of a plan. It will
Yeah.
probably change when you get here, but just having that idea of why you want to master your subject, what are you coming to get from the master's itself? Um, so yeah, so I suppose the portfolio itself, if it was to tell a bit of a story or have a narrative around what you'd like to do with us, that would be really helpful for us and also kind of set you up for success when you get here. It well communicated, so just nice and clear, good photography, keywords, all that stuff's really important as well. And again, I suppose not only showcasing what you are coming to do. So if it's fashion and textiles, maybe you've got fashion and textiles examples. We are interested in other projects that you have done. Life is squiggly and messy, and actually some of those projects and experiences can really shape your design work as well, if they're even if there's something to do that's nothing to do with design, in a fashion context. So yeah, so we're looking for
Okay.
that kind of well-rounded and a bit of a plan.
So, if I can just move with Sophia, I think this question, let's start with you and then we'll move on to Eric quickly. One of the questions that came in is, what is the learning like? Is it hands-on? Now, I know, and you will know, Heriot Watt have got some of the best research facilities in the world, never mind in the UK. How important is that, and what is the learning like, therefore, from a research perspective?
So a lot of the research that I've done has been very hands-on. The project that I'm currently working on is looking at heated garments, so using like printed inks and applying electronics to that to generate heat. So that's been a whole range of learning, straight from just finding out how that actually works and then working with other people and collaborating to try and get that into a physical working product. So very hands-on, and yeah, lots of opportunities to collaborate with different people in different fields. So perhaps people in electronics or product design or um, mathematics. Yeah, whole range, which has been really interesting.
Excellent. And Eric, if I can move on to you as well, from much more less of a research, obviously more of a kind of postgraduate level degree. How has that learning been for you? And was it what you expected? Can you go to a Lucy type of academic lead and really ask for her help on a one-to-one basis?
I think it was good for me personally. I don't know about other students, but because I had that textiles experience from my study abroad, it was definitely what helped me out and gave me the opportunities and I guess comfortability with using those facilities and approaching tutors over there. So yeah, I was able to collaborate with Grace, the print technician, to help me out with the screen printing, and Ursula, the knit technician, to do some knit accessories. So that was a really good thing that I had really a lot of fun with my learning there. But yeah, overall it was a good use of the facilities. I tried to really make sure that I was using lots of things, but
Yeah,
that's kind of my way.
of course. Lucy, if I can come to you, just a couple more questions, really. First of all, is what jobs, I think what the person's asking is, what jobs can you help me with post-graduation? What links are there? What career opportunities? And likewise, a follow-up question for myself would be, what typically does a student that graduates look to do post-graduation? Because it is a very, very creative field, isn't it? So I'd imagine it opens the door for a lot of different opportunities.
Yeah, so traditionally we've got a really strong industry kind of background here in the borders of Scotland. So there are knit and weave companies literally on our doorstep, or even, 20 minutes there, half an hour away in the borders that they're still going. Um, One of them, for example, I think it still does have the Chanel house, so it does knitwear for Chanel. So there's quite a lot of local industry that we've always championed and that we work with really closely. But equally, there's lots of Scottish industry and there's national industry that we have really good connections with. Our career service are amazing, and I'm always championing students to get in touch with them, and you can get in touch with them after graduation as well, Eric, if you haven't already. They can look at your CV, they can look at your portfolio, and they can connect you to lots of different opportunities. And they'll kind of cheerlead you the whole way. So definitely, you know, really good service there, and quite personal. And then I suppose what jobs, yeah, especially from our postgraduate, it's very diverse. And we give you opportunity not only to think about the industry, but also to think about maybe starting your own company or going on to doing your own research. And we give you some lovely jobs like Sophia's had with Design Hopes. So, any opportunities, we're very much championing our students and asking them to kind of put themselves out there. I think, like I've said with your portfolio, it's squiggly, it's messy because you've done lots of different things. Post graduation, especially in the world we're in today, loads of different things, loads of different opportunities. Transferable skills come with being a designer, and the world's your oyster kind of thing. I'm always looking at lots of different opportunities for my students and for myself. There's so much out there. And again, have a little look on Instagram. We're always kind of posting about different opportunities locally and abroad.
And I know the last question I'm going to ask is a very admissionsy types question, so apologies. The big question of funding and scholarships, obviously, all degrees and learning now is very expensive, no matter where you do it and what you do, and you've got to make sure you can justify it. What help is there, and when is that help applied? At what stage can they go for that?
Good question. Not necessarily one that I'm best posed to answer, but if you were to email our student admissions, they can kind of go over what bursaries and things we have. Obviously, they're very competitive, as all funding is, but there are some Heriot Watt opportunities there. But equally, depending on your subject, depending on what you're interested in, there are different funds, particularly within the UK, but internationally as well. Um, so for example, there is tech kind of like historical textile research funding. Um, I've just forgotten the name of it now. And there's different postgraduate funds. I've got a little Padlet board, so if anyone was interested in knowing a little bit more, I can actually ping you the link afterwards. So give me an email, give admissions an email. I can't promise funding,
Yeah.
but it's really about getting out there and applying for it early. And I'd say as early as you can. Um,
I think it's really important to point out that every single program, every department, every school is different, and they've all got their different funding opportunities and scholarship opportunities, depending on what country they're from, what their current circumstances are, and whatnot. So, anyone asking those questions, and inevitably, I've been in the same situation as you students before. You're always going to want to help, and I understand that. So please do reach out. Like I mentioned earlier on, study with us at hw.ac.uk is probably the best email address to reach out to. They'll be more than happy to help the team there. But for now, Lucy, Eric, and Sophia, Thank you. Thanks for your help. Really appreciate that. It's been a great session. Anyone that's missed anything or watching on demand that wants more information, webinars at Postgrad Solutions or that study with us email address I just mentioned. But we have all your details and we will reach out to you afterwards. Thank you very much. Lucy, Eric, and Sapphire, thank you. Take